a meeting of the forces of darkness. In this meeting Satan spoke and said, "Have bitterness against our opponent." There he spoke of the Lord Jesus. He said to the audience, "Never mention his name," and prevent his followers from mentioning his name. And he said, "Sin will be our gospel, and spread evil over the entire surface of the earth. This is how our reign will continue. By sinning all these people will belong to us." Today I wanted to share with you 70 strategies that make the followers of the righteous man vulnerable, as well as the whole world, particularly the followers of the righteous man. And there I understood that Satan was talking about us Christians. He said, with this strategy, the righteous man will not succeed in his mission of salvation of humanity. And Satan began to give his strategies. I saw the devil addressed all the demons who were in the Oval Hall, and Satan said to the demons, "You would vaccinate the church with our vaccine, that will activate in them the law of resistance." The law of resistance was the first strategy that Satan nicknamed the vaccine. He says to demons, "These vaccines will create the law of resistance and unbelief to the things of their God." Satan continued his speech and said, "Here is the procedure. Do not approach Christians, because they have a luminous circle on their heads. Their fire is burning and is capable of neutralizing us. So if one of you comes here already neutralized by this fire of Christians, I will destroy him immediately." Use the observation method. It is very simple. And what is the observation method? Satan explains, observe them from afar. As soon as a Christian dares to sin, you will see his flame will automatically go out. That is the right time, the favorable time to approach them. For Christians have a luminous flame all around their heads. That is what makes devils unable to approach them. But what is that make the Christian lose this flame of fire? It is only sin that cause the fire of the believer to go out. Brother, the only thing that makes our flame go out is when we commit sin. It is sin that cause the believer to easily fall into the trap of the enemy. Therefore we must watch over our flame. Yes, when we sin, even with the idea of asking for forgiveness, when we ask for forgiveness, God does not hesitate to forgive us, but our flame remain extinguished. Therefore we must redo all the sacrifices that we had done previously so that the flame is rekindled. And now note that the satanic world loves these moments when the flame of the believer goes out. For Satan said in this meeting of sorcerers, occultists, demons and humans who were there in the Oval Hall, when the believer commit a sin and his fire is extinguished, what you need is to be in a group of 8 demons, and you will join heads above that Christian who has committed sin. Here is what you will do. The devil brought out an instrument in the shape of a syringe, and he said to the 8th demon, "You are going to use this instrument to inject he who is angry, he who is lying, he who has committed impurity." It is an order. 8 demons will surround him, and you will join your heads and invoke me by this prayer. "O great Supreme Master, here is your victim who has obeyed your orders. Come suddenly and enters his body, which is your temple." This is the prayer that you will do when a believer light has gone out, and while committing the act. And Satan says, when you do this prayer, I will come at the speed of lightning. I will enter him while his fire has gone out because of sin, and this believer will receive a vaccine from me, which will be for him a law of repetition. This is the beginning of the law of repetition and resistance on his life, which begins with an injection. Even if the person will ask God for forgiveness later, Satan will have already left an impact on the one who is in sin. The person will enter into the law of resistance and repetition, which will cause that person to become a slave to his sin, for which he is caught red-handed, and he will become dependent. And the devils continue, and he says, this person will become dependent on us and his sin, despite the decisions, conviction and determination to abandon his sin and change. He will repeat his sins again and again. You ask yourself the question, how many times have I prayed for this sin and I always do it again? Here is the answer. And when your fire went down because of sin, the devil injected in your life his vaccine, which is the law of resistance and repetition, that will cause to come back to the same sin. The devil told the 8th demon, when you have managed to inject our vaccine of resistance in this believer, 7 of you will return to the kingdom, but 1 of you will always stay in this believer life. In order to monitor and watch the victim, you will monitor and watch over his feelings. Once the victim become convicted and become disgusted by his sin, and want to confess and give up, You, the demon who watch over the victim, will call me when the believer manifests the will to abandon the sins for which he was vaccinated. You will cause the 7 other demons that had left. When they come, then you will join your heads again. Invoke me by this prayer, O great Supreme Master. Here is your victim, who has rebelled against your orders and wants to escape from you. Suddenly come to occupy his body, which is your temple, and I will come at lightning speed. I will enter the person, just to stir his vaccine, and the person will have inclinations to come back to his sins and will weaken new ones. This is the first strategy of the devil.